The text came through while I was rinsing my coffee mug, the water still running when I read it. You are not invited to the anniversary launch. Sierra says your presence disrupts the energy. No punctuation, no apology, no hesitation. Just a line drawn clean through me. A second message followed from my mother. Linda. We decided to keep it small. Please do not make this awkward. I stood there in my tiny Seattle kitchen, the morning light sharp across the counter, and felt something shift inside my ribs. Only 4 hours earlier, I had been finalizing a wire transfer of $210,000 to keep my family's brewery in Bend alive. A few minutes after that, I had confirmed a $13,800 Tuscany anniversary trip for Linda and my father, Richard. All of it done with the quiet loyalty they never asked for but always expected. James leaned against the doorway, watching the air leave my chest. What happened? I handed him the phone. The muscle in his jaw tightened, but he said nothing. I guess they already celebrated. I murmured. He returned the phone to me. You know you do not owe them this. His voice was gentle, but something in it pushed at a part of me I had kept locked down for years. I felt the truth land with a weight that startled me. Instead of answering, I walked to my desk and opened my laptop. The wire transfer was still pending, waiting for my authorization. A single button hovered beside it. James stepped closer. Marin, think before you hit anything. I am thinking, I said. My hand trembled anyway. Then I clicked cancel. The confirmation window blinked. The transfer disappeared. Next, I opened the travel site and canceled the entire anniversary trip. The non-refundable portion stung, but compared to the years of bleeding money and silence, it felt almost merciful. James spoke quietly. Whatever you choose next, choose it for yourself. I closed the laptop. Something inside me that had lived in a crouch for years finally stood up straight. If you have ever felt like the person your family leans on until you disappear, stay with me. This story is yours as much as it is mine, and I promise you what comes next is the moment everything began to change. I expected my phone to explode within minutes, but the house stayed quiet. The silence felt unfamiliar, almost foreign. I had spent years reacting before anyone even asked, fixing problems before my family could name them. Now there was nothing to fix, and the stillness pressed against me like a hand on my back. James watched me pace. You canceled everything. How do you feel? I opened my mouth, then closed it. The truth was confusing relief tangled with fear. I think I just broke a rule they never actually said out loud. He nodded once. Then maybe it needed breaking. My phone buzzed on the table and my stomach tightened. But it was an automated message from the bank confirming the canceled transfer. No frantic calls, no accusations, just an absence that said more than their voices ever could. James stepped closer. You know what this means. Right. It means they realized I stopped paying. It also means you are not their solution anymore. The words hit deeper than I expected. I sank into a chair. For 6 years, every time something fell apart, they called me. They would not even use my name. They would say, "Can you handle this?" And I handled it. I always handled it. James sat across from me. And now you said no. I rubbed my hands together, the tension sharp in my shoulders. They are going to come for me. Maybe not today, but they will come. They might, he said. But you will be ready this time. I let the thought settle me. Ready. Me. Not scrambling to cover debts, invoices, emergencies that were never mine. The quiet stretched between us. But it felt different now. Not the silence of being ignored. The silence of taking back space that had always belonged to me. The silence did not last long. It never did. But before the messages and calls began, my mind drifted back through the years, tracing every moment I had stepped in, every disaster I had quietly carried so no one else had to. It started with a single invoice the brewery could not pay, then another, then a vendor threatening collections. By the end of the first year, I had sent nearly $40,000 to cover temporary shortages. By year 3, the number had doubled. By year 6, I had poured $265,000 into a business that was never mine and a family that never said thank you. Logan, meanwhile, failed upward with a confidence that belonged to someone who had never been told no. I could still hear my father's voice the day Logan quit his third job. "He is meant for bigger things," Richard said. My mother nodded. "He is gifted. He just needs space to grow." When I earned my degree working 2 jobs to cover tuition, my mother hugged me once and said, "Good. Now you can help your brother." Whenever Logan made a mistake, Sierra framed it as destiny. "He is creative," she would say. "Some people are not built for routine." But every time I stepped in, Sierra's tone changed. "It is sweet how dependable you are, Marin. Some people are just practical. Practical, meaning invisible, predictable, the one they never had to worry about." The worst memory came 3 years ago, the night the brewery faced its first major collapse. Tanks were malfunctioning, orders delayed, records a mess. My father called me at midnight. He never asked if I was available. He just said, "You are good with computers. Fix this." I spent a month in Bend rebuilding everything: inventory systems, distribution tracking, compliance logs. When Logan saw the finished dashboard, he clapped my shoulder. "This is perfect. Now I do not have to deal with any of that boring stuff." My father added, "See, this is why we never worry about you. Marin, you always come through." I asked once why Logan never had to come through. My mother froze. "Because he needs support. You do not." 6 years of being the one who never needed support. 6 years of absorbing every blow so they could pretend our family was solid. I returned to the present when James touched my arm lightly. "Where did you go?" "Back," I said, "to all the times I made it easy for them, to the moments I should have walked away." He held my gaze. "You are not going back there again." For the first time, I felt the truth of that settle in my bones. The quiet broke on the 3rd morning, just after sunrise. My phone buzzed once, then again, then over and over until it rattled against the table. The first voicemail was from my father. "Richard, no greeting, no pause. The vendor accounts are locked. Orders are not moving. Fix it. This is not optional." Not, "Are you all right?" Not, "We need to talk." Just an order barked into the phone as if I were an employee who had dared take a day off. The next message came from my mother. "Linda," her voice pitched high and trembling. "Marin, what are you doing? This is humiliating. People are asking questions. Your father is furious. You need to stop this behavior before you ruin everything. Ruin everything." I let that phrase sit in my hands for a moment. Then another vibration. "My aunt, your mother is crying real tears. I do not know what you did, but you need to fix this. You are being cruel. Cruel. Years of paying bills, rescuing crises, covering mistakes, none of that counted. The moment I stopped, that was cruelty." James looked up from the couch. "You do not have to listen to those." "I know," I said, but I pressed play anyway. I needed to hear the truth without their usual sugarcoating. Then came the one message I expected and dreaded: a notification from social media. Logan had posted a photo of himself and Sierra on a cliff at sunset, their hands intertwined, their faces serene. The caption read, "Protecting our peace. Removing negative energy is the highest form of self-love." Within minutes, the comments poured in. "Stay strong, Logan. Do not let jealous people dim your light." And from Sierra, my protector, "Heart always knows." James exhaled slowly. "So that is how they want to play it. They think I will panic." I said, "They think I will cave." Another buzz. My mother again, this time on her public page. It is heartbreaking when the child you sacrificed for turns their back on family, praying for healing, a performance for the world, a warning for me. I set the phone down. The storm had arrived, and I was done standing in the middle of it without an umbrella. By the time the 10th message arrived, something inside me had shifted from shock to clarity. My family believed they owned my labor, my time, my wallet, and my silence. They had spent years treating my work as a favor, a daughter's duty, a bottomless well they were entitled to draw from. But the truth was simpler and far less flattering to them. They had never paid attention, and I had stopped reminding them. James watched me open my laptop. "What are you doing?" "Looking at the contract," I said. "The one they forgot they signed." His eyebrows lifted. "The licensing agreement," I nodded. 3 years ago, when everything fell apart the first time. Back then, the brewery had been collapsing under disorganized records, missing invoices, mislabeled shipments, compliance violations, and a distribution network that looked more like a rumor than a system. Richard told me to come home and fix the computer stuff as if the entire business were a broken printer. After a month of rebuilding every system from the ground up, I made one decision for survival mine, not theirs. I licensed the software and the entire operational structure through my own company, MC Data Systems. I wrote the contract. Richard signed it without a question. Now I reread the key clause aloud. MC Data Systems retains exclusive administrative control over all distribution routing, system permissions, and compliance logs unless license fees are maintained. James let out a low breath. So legally, I am the only person who can access, authorize, or override anything in that system. Every shipment, every vendor, every routing table, they wanted free help. They signed away control. I clicked through the admin dashboard. Every order that had stalled, every failed payment, every error flag. "They think the system is glitching," I said. "They think I need to fix it." James leaned against the desk. "So what happens now?" I scrolled to the bottom of the console. There it was, the function I had built as a failsafe, not a weapon. Suspend license and revoke permissions. "They signed themselves into this," I said quietly. "And they never once asked what they were agreeing to." I rested my finger above the command, not pressing it yet, not rushing. For the first time in years, the power did not sit on their side of the line. It sat in my hands, waiting for me to decide what I wanted to do with it. I stared at the command for a long moment, the cursor blinking like it was waiting for me to decide what kind of person I wanted to be. Not a savior. Not an ATM, not a quiet shadow holding up the walls of a house that only noticed me when I stopped. James stood beside me, arms crossed, steady in a way that grounded me. "Before you press anything, call Ellis," he said. "You deserve backup." I dialed. My attorney, Ellis March, answered on the second ring. "Marin." "What happened?" "I need to enforce my contract," I said. "The Carter Ridge Brewery is using my system without honoring the agreement. I want to suspend their license." Ellis did not gasp or panic. She spoke like she had been expecting this. "You have full administrative authority. You are within your rights to revoke access. Do you want me to file the notice now or after you execute the command after?" I said. My voice came out calmer than I felt. Ellis paused. Then, "Marin, make sure this is what you want. It will freeze everything. That is the point." James watched my face closely as I hung up. "You are shaking. I am not scared," I said. "I am angry. There is a difference." I clicked suspend license. A confirmation window appeared. "This action will revoke all operational permissions, vendor routing, compliance logging, and distribution access." "Continue." I pressed yes. For a breath. Nothing changed. Then everything did. Red indicators flooded the dashboard. Frozen shipments, blocked payments, revoked vendor credentials, halted compliance logs. The entire infrastructure I had built over a month of sleepless nights folded inward, locking them out of their own operation. James exhaled. That is it. That is it, I said. They cannot ship a single can of beer until I restore access. My phone buzzed instantly. Richard again. I let it ring. A second buzz. Logan. A third. My mother. Voicemail after voicemail stacked like falling dominoes. James sat beside me. They will accuse you of destroying them. They destroyed themselves. I said. I just stopped hiding the cracks. Another buzz, this one a text preview flashing across my screen. Marin, what did you do? The entire system is down. Fix it now. Linda. I turned the phone face down. For the first time in my adult life, I did not rush to fix anything. For the first time, I let them feel the weight of what they had built without me. The shutdown rippled through Bend faster than I expected. By the next morning, 3 vendors had emailed me directly, confused about bounced payments and revoked credentials. I forwarded everything to Ellis and stayed quiet. The Carter Ridge Brewery had operated for years on the assumption that I would always step in. Now they were learning how quickly the ground gave way without me holding it up. James watched me sort through the messages. There is something else going on, he said. This much chaos does not come from bad planning alone. I hesitated. What do you mean? He sat across from me, steady and thoughtful. They were struggling even when you wired money, even when you fixed their systems. Where did all of it go? I swallowed hard. Bad decisions, poor management, Logan's experiments. James shook his head. It is not enough. You know it is not. The truth stung because he was right. I had spent years believing that incompetence explained everything, but the numbers had never felt balanced. He took a breath and said, I know someone who can help. Camille Stone. She is a forensic accountant. The best I have ever worked with. A flicker crossed my chest, unease. Then something sharper. You have not talked to her in years. It does not matter, he said. She will not care about the drama. She only cares about numbers. I nodded slowly. Give me her contact. When I emailed Dr. Stone, she responded within an hour, requesting read-only access to my LLC banking logs, licensing invoices, and the brewery's payment trail. No small talk, no hesitation, just precision. 2 days later, she sent a single-line report attached. Call if you need clarification. My pulse hammered as I opened the file. James stood behind me, reading over my shoulder as the first page loaded. Line after line of consulting fees flagged as suspicious. The total, $138,000. I whispered the number, barely able to process it. This cannot be right. James leaned closer. Keep reading. Dr. Stone had traced every payment. The consulting firm did not exist. It was a shell, routing the money into 3 accounts. 1 credit card, 1 auto finance company, 1 personal savings account, all tied to Sierra Lane. James exhaled. She was funding her lifestyle with your work. I gripped the edge of the desk. Logan knew. He had to. The next page confirmed it. Transfers initiated under Logan Carter's administrative ID. I read the final line twice. Pattern indicates deliberate misappropriation of funds. My throat tightened. This was not neglect. This was theft. And the person they had worked so hard to push out of the room was the only one who finally saw it. My mother showed up without warning. No call, no text. Just the sound of her knocking too fast, too desperate as if urgency alone could force the world back into the shape she preferred. James opened the door, but she brushed past him like he was furniture. Where is she? I stepped out from my office, the audit packet still open on my desk. Right here. Linda's eyes were wide, frantic. Marin, what did you do? The brewery is frozen. Orders are stalled. Vendors are calling the house. Your father is beside himself. I crossed my arms. That sounds like a management issue. She flinched as if I had struck her. Do not talk to me like that. You know exactly what you did. You pushed a button and destroyed your family. I held her gaze. I enforced the contract you signed. Nothing more. She shook her head, pacing. We trusted you. We let you help. And this is how you repay us. Help, I said softly. I spent 6 years paying your debts, fixing your mistakes, covering your son's failures. That was not help. That was survival. Linda stopped pacing. Her voice dropped to a trembling whisper. You need to turn it back on. Everything. Right now. I am not restoring anything, I said. Not after what I found. Her expression flickered. What you found, I walked to my office and picked up the packet. When I handed it to her, her fingers shook so badly the pages rattled. This, I said, a forensic audit from Dr. Camille Stone. She flipped the first page. Her mouth parted, but no sound came out. $138,000, I said quietly. Taken through fake consulting invoices, routed to credit cards, a savings account, and an auto finance company, all tied to Sierra Lane. Linda stared at the paper as if it were written in a language she had never seen. This cannot be right. Logan would never. He did, I said. His ID authorized the transfers. Her denial cracked instantly into panic. We can fix this. Please, Marin, we can fix this. Do not go public. Do not tell anyone. I looked at her, really looked at the woman who had always chosen blindness over truth. I already reported it. I said, the state auditors have everything. Her breath left her in a broken sound. You told them. You told the state I did. Tears spilled over. Sudden and real, not the theatrical kind she used at family gatherings. You do not understand, she whispered. If this gets out, your father, he has built everything around that brewery. It will destroy him. I stepped back. He destroyed himself when he let this happen. Linda covered her mouth, trembling. Please, Marin, just undo this. Tell them it was a mistake. It was not a mistake, I said. It was theft. Her knees seemed to weaken, and for a moment I thought she might fall. But she steadied herself, turned toward the door, and walked out without another word. The door closed behind her, soft but final. James appeared beside me. You okay, I am? I said, surprised to hear how true it sounded. Something had broken in that room, but it was not me. It was the last thread tying me to a version of our family that had never really existed. The fallout began quietly, almost politely, as if the world wanted to give my family one last chance to behave differently. It did not last long. 3 days after my mother walked out of my apartment, a vendor emailed to confirm that all outstanding invoices from the Carter Ridge Brewery had been formally placed in collections. 2 more followed within hours. Then, the Oregon Liquor and Cannabis Commission issued a notice of temporary suspension for compliance irregularities tied to missing logs they could not access without my system. By week 2, the local bank froze the brewery's operating accounts. James read the notice with me. They flagged the transfers, he said. The fake consulting payments alone would have triggered an audit. I nodded. This was always going to surface. I just stopped delaying it. The calls from my father shifted from anger to something closer to desperation. Marin, answer the phone. They are shutting us down. You need to come home and explain this. I let the voicemail expire without replaying it. Logan tried next. His voice shook. The first crack I had ever heard from him. You do not understand what you have done. They are blaming me. You need to fix this before they take the house. Fix this. Always the same refrain. I forwarded everything to Ellis and stayed silent. By week 8, the news broke Bend Brewery under investigation for misappropriated funds and licensing violations. Neighbors whispered. Former friends avoided eye contact. Sierra deleted every photo she had ever posted with Logan, then reappeared online with a caption about learning to release what no longer aligns. Logan and Sierra were formally charged before week 12. My father's name appeared in the articles not as a suspect, but as a leader who failed to oversee his own business. For a man who lived on reputation, that was the deepest cut. When the house finally went on the market, my mother left me one last voicemail. "I hope you are satisfied. We have lost everything." I did not respond. What they had lost was theirs. What I had reclaimed was mine. The investigation closed long before the dust inside my family ever settled. By then, my life had taken on a quiet rhythm I had not known I was missing mornings that belonged to me, work that expanded instead of draining me, evenings where James and I cooked dinner without my phone vibrating like a weapon on the counter. One afternoon, as I was reviewing a contract for a national client, someone knocked on our door, soft, hesitant. James glanced at me before opening it. Logan stood there, not polished, not posturing, just stripped down. He stepped inside only when I nodded. His voice was small in a way I had never heard. "Everything is gone," he said. "Sierra left. Mom barely speaks. Dad drinks in the garage of the rental like it is still his office." I waited. He was not here for sympathy. He was here because the scaffolding that held him up had finally collapsed. He sank into a chair. I do not know who I am without them telling me. Something in me softened, not enough to erase what he had done, but enough to recognize the truth of it. "You are going to have to find out," I said, without shortcuts, without someone covering for you. He looked up, eyes red. "Are you saying you are done with us?" "I am saying I am done being the version of me you all depended on. The one who carried everything." Logan nodded slowly, absorbing the words without fighting them. "I guess I deserved that." When he left, he did not ask for money. He did not blame me. He just walked out quietly, finally aware of the gravity of the life he had built. That night, James and I hosted a few friends for dinner. Ellis, Camille, two people who had stayed by my side through the unraveling. We talked, laughed, passed plates around a table that finally felt like mine. When the conversation softened, I told them, "For years, I thought love meant being useful. Now I am learning it means being seen. If you have ever carried a family on your back or lost yourself trying to earn a seat at a table that never made room for you, you are not alone. Stay with me. There is more to tell, and I promise you your story matters here."